Welcome to the Mindful Mama Movement podcast. I'm Shannon Kinney-Dew, creator of A Free Spirit Life.
And I'm Ashley Walburn, owner of Home Holistic. And together we are bringing back the Mindful Mama Movement podcast.
Mindful mothering is about nurturing yourself while you nurture others. It's about consciously awakening to your inner wisdom, strength, power, and peace as a mother in this changing world.
From discovering your newborn to accepting and loving the people who've left your nest, our movement is inspiring mothers to be authentic and to live empowered lives.
We're so happy you're here.
Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to be here with you today, and we are going to talk today about everything human design. Mostly, you've probably heard about this a few times in our most recent podcast. Shannon and I are talking about it and referring to it, and we're going to just really get into it so you guys know what we're talking about. So hi, Shannon.
Hey.
Share with us a little bit about human design and the origins of it, what got you into it, and what do you think would be kind of most useful for moms to know?
Okay. So anyone who knows me personally or who's hired me as a coach probably knows their human design at this point, because it's one of those modalities that I have found literally made me feel seen for the things that I always questioned about myself that I thought made me weird or different or made me not fit in. It really taught me so much about who I authentically am in this world, who I was born to be, and also how I got pulled off center from that, how I got pulled away from, based on some of my past conditioning and the way that I grew up. And so I have such respect for human design. And I know that people who are listening either have never heard of it. A lot more people are starting to become aware of it. And some people are really turned off by it because it seems very complicated. And so what I like to do is just really highlight some of the simple parts of learning about your human design that can, like you said, be applied to your own life and also to parenting, because originally, I think that's why I was so drawn to it. I learned that out of the 5 energy types in human design, 4 of them are in my own family. And so I have had a lot of in the moment personal experience with each of the different energy types. And so that was kind of my practice and my introduction to it, to say, oh my gosh, we all know why, certain kids are completely different from each other, different from us, why our partner triggers us in certain ways, why they respond differently. All those things we can start to really learn more about in our human design chart. So starting off, what I want everyone to do, first of all, is to look up your human design chart. And when you think about I think a lot of us know now about the Enneagram or the Myers-Briggs, or some people use strength finders, or there's so many different personality assessments.
Even love languages. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And those little things are so helpful. Am I an introvert? Am I an extrovert? Do I love touch? Do I love affirmation? Those are such helpful things because they give you the language to express and explain what's hard to put into words a lot of times about yourself. What I love about human design is I like to think of it like a personality assessment, but it's really an energy type assessment. And it's not based on a quiz that you take thinking about who am I? And you answer a set of questions. It's literally based on the moment you took your first breath. So it's the imprint that you made when you came into this world, and how we were influenced by that moment and how we're influenced throughout life. So if you think about it in the simplest of terms, we know that the full moon affects the way our children act. Mine never sleep on the full moon. We know that in schools, kids act crazy, or right? Births. Yes.
Somebody said to me recently about a moon cycle. Maybe we said it on here. I can't remember where I heard it, but somebody was saying, don't question the moon cycle. Oceans change based on the moon. Right. Why would we think it doesn't affect humans?
Exactly. And
Uh-huh.
so the more that I want to continue connecting to my own true nature, my own authentic nature,
Mhm.
and to help women reconnect to their true nature, the first thing we have to really accept is that we are nature. We are part of nature. We're
Mm.
affected by nature. So, of course, we're affected by the moon and the planets and the stars and the breath and the flow and all of that. And so, you know, I have always been more skeptical in my thinking and I really doubt things until it
Mm.
really makes sense for me. And so when I heard human design at first, even though I've loved astrology most of my adult life anyway, I still have to question it. Is this really legit? What is this? And so I want to tell everyone who's listening, like, don't take my word for it because anything that I love,
Mm.
whether it's yoga, meditation, art, like you have to have a direct experience with it. So I want you
Yeah.
to experiment with what I'm going to teach you today about your design and see for yourself. And if it resonates with you, then stay open to it because that's what I've had to do. And now the things that I question, like whether it's, we've talked in the past episodes about spirit guides or things we can't see, and I think like we're spinning on a planet in space. Like how much weirder could that be? Like everything
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
make
not
sense to me.
woo-woo. That's just what's happening. Yeah. Sounds
Exactly.
crazy. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
the
for
first thing
real.
you're going to do to find out your energy type is you're going to go to, there's several websites, but this is the one I use. It's called geneticmatrix.com. And I will put that link in the show notes for you. And you'll type in your information to get a free chart. So there's no cost to it. And you will need your birthday, your year, the time of birth, and the place of birth. And so some of us, have a baby book or a birth certificate, or you can call up a family member and ask, when was I born? Some of you probably don't know, or that's not easy to get.
It should be on most birth certificates, though, just because Shannon did this for me. And but this is also kind of stupid that we celebrate at our house the time of your birth. And so like my oldest son at 8:22 p.m., that's when we open presents and sing happy birthday. And I give them like a play-by-play of their birth. They hate it. But part of our tradition is time. Thank God none of them were born at 3 a.m.,
I was just going to ask because my kids are aware of when they're born and they always are
Yeah.
very serious about it. Like if you go to bed at that night, you're not really that age until you wake up because they were born in the night. So I'm not going to do
Yeah,
that
yeah.
tradition, but I love that.
No, don't do it. It's really not meant for 90% of the births that we attend, but it was on my birth certificate because I didn't know what time I was born or what time my husband was born.
Right.
So it's on a lot of birth certificates, but it's also not on some, kind of
I
depending on the
know.
state, I think. But it's findable.
It is findable. And if you can't find it, you can also try entering 6 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. and just look at the energy type. And if
Mm.
it doesn't change, that's at least going to give you some good information to go on with, especially what we're going to talk about today.
Oh, that's great.
If you're like, become obsessed with human design like I have, there are astrologers who can really dig deeply and try to find you the actual time that you were born. But that's, for another, those really serious people.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get there. Not today.
Exactly. So once you have your chart, you're going to screenshot it and look where it says type. And there are 5 energy types in our population. So we're going to start with the first one, which is you, Ashley, a generator. So generators make up about 40% of people. And what makes people a generator, and I'm going to talk really dusting the surface of human design. So, but this is the most important thing. If you take nothing from this conversation, but learn about how your energy operates, this could change your life. So, Ashley's a generator. And what that means is you were born with the gift of having sustainable, consistent worker, builder, life force energy. Like when you are doing what you feel good about, you have the energy to do that. And you can burn that energy throughout the day. You can land in bed exhausted, which is actually good for generators. Like generators should really burn physical and mental energy every day. You should go to bed feeling satisfied and tired so that when you wake up, you're like with a full tank. Now, there are things that prevent us, right? Where we were just talking about, premenopausal or having too much on your plate. Or obviously there are things that drain us as generators, but you can look at your life, and for the most part, you can resonate with this idea that yes, I have energy for the things that I love. And I've heard you say this before, Ashley, like give me jobs. Like I want to work. I want to be a worker. I want to do my jobs. I want to respond to my day. Generators are literally designed to respond to your gut wisdom, those yeses and nos. So we've talked a little bit about that, but you seem to resonate with that, which is, you wake up in the day, you have a task at hand, or you look, you head to the studio and you see something needs to get done. You can know in the moment what your gut says is a yes and what your gut is like, ugh, no, yuck.
Yep. With work, with parenting, with kind of how I want to do my Saturday. I like to burn energy. I've never one time been somebody that, I don't know, lays around, watches TV, that my recharging is, like, let's do something. And I like downtime, but it still needs to feel useful. So my downtime might be outside instead of like in front of a television. I'm totally okay if people sit in front of televisions. I don't want it to sound like I'm saying that, but like I struggle with not feeling, that's not what I want to say. I want to say I thrive with feeling useful.
Totally.
And if I'm not feeling useful, then it can affect the way I feel about my day and even myself.
That's right.
So interesting.
It is interesting because not everyone's like that. So a lot of people are going to resonate with that and know this about themselves. And actually, I am not a generator, and I was raised in a family of generators. And I always wondered why they loved golfing on the weekends and always so physically active. And I was like,
what are you doing?
I can't. That sounds miserable to me. And so we'll talk more about those of you who don't have that sustainable energy. But for generators, it's just really a cool fact. And when you're thinking about the kids, this is so cool. I love this, teaching all parents this tip. If you look at your kids' charts and you're raising a generator, or you're married to one, one of the greatest things you can do for communication is ask them yes or no questions, because generators answer with their gut, and their gut gets turned on by yes or no. So if I were to work with Ashley and I want to know, like, hey, what podcast episodes would you like to do? If I give her too many open-ended questions, she's going to get in her head. She's going to start thinking about it. But in human design, we are wanting to reconnect to our body and our intuition. And so the head is never the decision maker. The head can process information, but not make the final decision. And the more that I would ask you open-ended questions, you're going to try to think of an answer versus, asking you a direct yes or no question. You can answer.
I literally go to restaurants and tell the waiter, just like picks, like, these are the things I don't eat. Just pick something. That choice, like a bunch of choices, I'm like, I don't want to do it.
Exactly.
I'll eat nothing. I'd rather have nothing.
Right. So when you think about that with your kids, I'll just give a personal example. My oldest is a generator. And before I knew this, I used to ask him things like, how was school today? How are you doing?
That was hard.
And he'd say to me, Mom, I don't know how to answer how questions. And I thought, how fascinating, because as I learned about his design, he's already in tune with, if I say, did you have a good day today? No. He could answer those. He could say, or do you want to talk about school right now? No. He could answer that. But if it was too open-ended, he couldn't answer with his gut. So I've really been teaching him, when he thinks like, Mom, should I still play clarinet and band, or should I don't know what to do. I try to help him understand that, what that gut wisdom feels like. And really, when you're in tune with it, you can feel it under your belly button, like your gut is moving towards something or away. And so if you're like listening, you're like, gosh, I'm not sure I know how to connect with that. One thing you can do as a generator is to practice it in your daily life. So you wake up and you're like, ooh, do I want tea today? And you hear, I'm not saying, what do I want to drink? I'm saying, yes or no questions. Do I
Mm-hmm.
want tea today? And your gut's like, do I want a
Mm-hmm.
frothy, warm pumpkin latte? Mm-hmm.
That's what I
Answer.
need today. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And practice it with your food for a while so that you're really
Mm-hmm.
practicing answering with your gut, because really what this is doing is it's helping you create least amount of resistance, helping you live more in flow with your energy. So when bigger life decisions like, should I leave my job, should I move,
Mm-hmm.
is this the right partner for
Mm-hmm.
me, she's
Uh-huh.
already doing it. You guys are hearing her.
Uh-huh.
She's answering with her
Uh-huh.
gut. That is what generators do. That makes
Oh,
sense
God,
to
that's
you.
so funny.
Yes.
Yeah. If ever, I wish that you guys could all see us because we're on a Zoom call that Shannon's talking and I'm, like, But it also, what pops up for me that's so interesting, and Shannon hasn't done all of my kids yet, but one of my kids always, almost from birth, um, three of my kids were co-sleepers. They breastfed constantly. They were in bed. They wanted to touch me. We were skin to skin, skin to skin, skin to skin. That it wasn't really my choice. It was just like, this is what they were telling me. Like, don't put me down or else. And Cole, kind of from day one, he'd take a boob or a bottle. He did not like sleeping with me, and it didn't make sense. He was my third kid. I thought that's just what my kids did. And he liked to sleep in his own room. He liked to sleep in his own bed, and he liked to sleep a lot. He's 19, and his recharging is really alone, lots of time, and in bed. He's also my most social kid, but
Mm.
it's something that he can't function if he hasn't had a tremendous amount of alone time. And you
Mm-hmm.
you can't make him get out of there. That it's like you got to let Cole do this. Then when he's present, he's got a lot to give. But his kind of gut instinct is like, I'm okay over here. And
Mm-hmm.
and I remember being like, oh, how interesting. Like when he was a baby, like, what's this kid doing? He doesn't need me.
Yeah. And it's so cool because I'm excited to look at his chart because a
Yeah.
lot of other aspects of our chart, like our profile, as an example, is our learning style and how we experience and
Mm-hmm.
process life. There's actually a part of the profile that they call the hermit. And a lot of people with that part of their profile sometimes think there's something wrong with them. Maybe they're antisocial. Maybe they don't like to be with people, but really they do. They just need more alone time, as you said, to
Mm-hmm.
recharge before they're ready to then connect again. And so it is very fascinating. And we'll talk more about sleep for each of the types because I think that's super important. So if you have a generator, kid or partner, they also, like I was telling Ashley, you've got to go to sleep tired. So my
Mm.
generator, when he's not getting enough physical activity in the day, he goes outside and he walks the yard, jumps on the trampoline. He already
Yeah.
knows he has to burn
It's
his
like his
physical
body
energy.
saying, you've got to go burn it, or his
Yes.
energy's telling him,
Yes.
I've got to go burn this.
Yes. So you can't expect all your kids even to necessarily go to bed at the same time or in the same way
Mm-hmm.
because some need to go to bed before they're tired. So I'll get to those types in a minute. But generators really make sure that
Mm-hmm.
they're burning their energy because that's going to help with sleep and especially as you get older too. So very important. Okay.
Yeah.
So, second type is called the manifesting generator. Similar to generators, there's about 30% of that energy type. The main difference with a manifesting generator is that they are the multitaskers of the energy types, meaning they really like to start things and hop to another thing and start another thing and start another thing. And a lot of people who've been diagnosed with ADHD or think that they can't ever focus, a lot of times it's because they are manifesting generator type of energy. And so it is very interesting. I'm married to one.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who isn't a manifesting generator, it looks crazy making to others. You don't understand how they can do that much at once. They're super fast. They do everything hyper speed. Sometimes they miss important details because they want to do things faster. They're literally here to figure out how to do things more efficiently and faster. But they get impatient because they think everyone else can act as fast as them. And it's not the case. And so, same thing, you are here to learn how to trust your gut, how to answer those yes or no questions, let your gut wisdom guide you. But you're also here to make sure you're informing people about what you need, because manifesting generators go so fast that they sometimes don't think people need to know what they're up to, what they're doing. And it can be very confusing for anyone who's in relationship with them or a family member.
Yeah. It sounds like it could feel to me like they'd rather be, doing this than,
yes.
I'll bet that's what my dad is.
Yes.
But my guess also is as a manifesting generator, that they like have to.
They have to. And what happens?
It's an injury to themselves if they don't.
Oh, Ashley, so good for you to say that, because what happens to a lot of manifesting generators, and I've coached quite a few because my brother and sister are both one as well. I find that we have a lot of wounds around being raised. Would you just pick something already? Would you just pick that one thing and focus on that one thing? And a lot of man-gens think that there's something wrong with them because they can't. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't focus. It simply means that they're designed to have a lot going on at one time. So if any man-gens are listening right now, I guarantee they're not just listening to this podcast. They are driving. They've got tons of windows open on their computer. They're folding clothes. They're doing other things. And it doesn't mean that if you're a generator, you can't do a couple things at once as well. But man-gens are literally designed to bounce around. And if they aren't, they literally, like you said, it's an injury to them. It's like, think about like a lightning bug, and it's trapped in a glass jar, and it's bouncing and doesn't have anywhere to burn its energy. That's what it feels like for them. So when you're raising or living with man-gens, think about times where you make them finish something when they're not ready to finish. Like I always think about the kids who like need a Play-Doh station and then need a reading nook and then need the Legos out and we want them to like complete, like finish that one thing and then finish and then go to the next. But they're really designed to be able to like go build Legos for a little bit and then leave it all and then go play their instrument and then go outside and jump around. And they just need a lot going on at one time. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting thing. I think of I have a sister that's 17 months older than me, and she would sit down and do a gigantic puzzle. I've never done a puzzle in my life. I'm not a manifesting generator, but I for sure don't have like sustained detail focus. Yeah. That I'd rather do nothing. I'd rather just sit and space out. I'd rather do anything than build a puzzle. And she would read long books, even when we were little kids. And I'm like, I would like to read plays, short stories. And I remember kind of thinking there's something wrong with me. Like, why can't I do a dang puzzle? But she's built that way.
Right.
And I wasn't. And there's such an honoring, and I think it's really hard. I mean, Shannon has 3 kids. I have 4 kids that we think like I got to show up for these kids, and we learn so much about ourselves and being a mom with our first. And so by the time I had my second, I was like, I got this, like I'm a mom. And then he was completely different, completely different. And I really have 4 very, very different kids. And by the time I had Owen, I was like, turns out I know nothing, that each kid has their own unique set of needs. And I'm the right mom for that kid also. But if I'm trying to make him be like my oldest, then I'm not seeing him clearly, and I'm not parenting him as the unique, beautiful spiritual being that he is. because I
Right.
think it needs to be the way I learned
Yes. And
or
that
the
is
way that
hard. Yeah. And actually, human design came into the world is really this tool. It's an integration of ancient teaching modalities that have been around for thousands of years and integrating that with what we're learning about quantum physics, the fact that we are simply all energy. So when you think about we have this body and we know how our body works, our DNA makes our body work in a certain way. This is our energetic body that we're talking about. And it really came into the world as this tool to help our children. But you and I both know, like, this is a self-discovery journey as a mother. And so the more we learn about ourselves, the more then we learn from our children too. So I think that, it's so important for us to learn about our own energy types first and then start experimenting. Look at your kids and look at the ones that really have that high energy. Are they burning it? Because I'm thinking about what you're saying. You're a generator. Sometimes generators, they like to kind of have the task that they're working on and really check off the list, like linearly. Like, I've got my job, I just give me the job, I want to do this job, and then I want to complete it. And generators tend to hit plateaus as they're growing in their work, even where they get kind of bored and restless. But then, yes. And so what happens is you get kind of bored and restless, and you're at this place of like, is this the time to do something different? Should I pivot? What should I do? But it's right on the crest of you learning and growing. And so then you'll know if you lean into your gut wisdom. Manifesting generators do not operate that way. So I see a lot of generator mothers or parents struggle with raising a kid like this because you're kind of like, just pick something, stick with it, and work hard to complete it. And man gens are saying, no, mom, like I want to do this, and this, and I can do it all 10 times faster than you can. Watch me. And it's fascinating to see that as you're parenting.
Yeah, I can't imagine for young moms, not young in age, but have young kids, how useful. I mean, Shannon and I have always just like, tell me more, give me all the information because we want to meet our children's needs. But I remember doing love languages, just like read the book or listened to something. And I realized that for me, like when my husband was doing dishes or putting away laundry, it felt to me like he was withdrawing from our family. I even feel mad thinking about it. And then we did like the little love languages quiz, took 20 minutes. And I'm like, oh, this is how he's showing his love.
I was going to say, I think that was so loving what you were just telling me, because I have that. What is that? Gifts of service.
Acts of service
is one of my high acts of service.
It didn't make sense to me. I'm like, sit down, have a deep conversation with me, rub my feet. And he was like, I'm going to take some shit off your plate, Ashley. And he was showing love. And once I learned that, I could honor it, and it felt so fulfilling for me. The exact same thing that felt not fulfilling, empty or frustrating.
Yes.
That I could see like, oh, this is the way he does this thing. I do it differently. Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're really highlighting, and I'm not sure if I've said this, why I love learning about our energy type, because for me, language helps us understand and helps us communicate. So to me, human design is this giving us the language to affirm what we've always known about ourselves deep down inside, but we've questioned. And when you've said like, what's wrong with me, or why can't I do a puzzle, or why am I so tired all the time and I can't golf on the weekends? Like, what's wrong with me? And human design is saying actually nothing. And what you think is wrong with you is actually your greatest gifts. We just have to reshift, and we have to have the language. And so many people who learn this land with, oh my God, I've always known about that's me, but I felt judged, or I felt like I had to be different in some way. So let's go to the next energy type, because it's the manifester. That is my energy type. There's about 8% of us. And talk about feeling different and 8%. Feeling like something's wrong.
You think of a classroom of 25 people that you probably had growing up. or less, I mean, you were
Yes.
the only one, very realistically. That's
Yes.
interesting.
It is interesting because 70% of our world is a generator
Mm-hmm.
type of energy. When you think about the generators and mangens, what's different about a manifester is they do not have that consistent internal energy that fills up every day. And what's different about them is they're here to initiate, to start things, to get the ball rolling, to be a spark, to set things in motion. And if you think about initiating something, starting something takes a lot of energy. And so what happens to manifestors is they use all that creative energy to get something moving, to initiate, to trailblaze in some way. And then their energy is completely gone. It's not sustainable. It's not consistent. So they might have to rest 4 days after.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about a world for generators, and even like we think about kids going to school, I'm raising a manifester, so I have learned a ton.
Is Ashton a
He's my
manifester?
youngest. It's
Oh, it's
Grayson,
Grayson.
actually. It's Grayson. Yeah. And so what's been cool is when I first discovered, right before I knew about human design, I used to always say, God, I'd love to be Grayson for a day. I would love to be Grayson for a day, because at the time he was in kindergarten and I would watch him. He was a natural leader. The kids at recess would try to kill the bugs, and Grayson was not going to have it. So he would grab the bugs and release them out into the fence. And they'd say, Grayson, where'd you put the bugs? He's like, I'm not telling. And he had this like cool, powerful attitude, not in a way to be a jerk, but just he was protecting the bugs, and he wasn't swayed by the kids who were kind of mad at him
and
for
it
doing
feels
that.
like a really like innate confidence, like you were just born this way. Yeah.
Innate confidence. And another thing that would happen to him is he'd get in trouble a lot at recess because he's a nature kid. He thinks he's Bear Grylls. So he would like play with the sticks and play in the mud. And I understand public school, you can't always do that. Well, they would place him on the wall, like as a punishment at recess.
That's
and
infuriating to
this
me.
kid is like, I know. And luckily COVID hit and then he hasn't gone back. But anyway, that's another story. So for him though, manifestors have a really hard time being told what to do. They are natural born leaders. So if you're raising one, almost always, if you're struggling, parents don't know how to parent manifestors because they're like little adults, and you have to give them a long, long rope. And so I always encourage people to give them choices, trust them, and teach them how to inform. That is their strategy. Whereas your generator strategy is to respond to the yeses and nos, manifestors need to learn how to inform, telling people what they're doing. Because here's the interesting thing about manifestors. We just want to kind of be left alone and to be at peace doing our own thing. And we think no one cares about what we're doing. But if we don't inform and tell people what we're up to, they can't read us. They don't know. And it can make people feel a little unsettled. And so teaching your kids, because they are natural leaders and they feel different, they sometimes feel like people don't like them. They sometimes either take the road of total people pleasers or total rebellion. And so you want to teach your kids how to inform, to say, hey, instead of, here's an example, talking about Bear Grylls. We live in kind of a wooded area. If I don't trust Grayson, and in fact, you were here yesterday and you saw him riding his bike. We don't have sidewalks. He really has to pay attention.
Very hilly,
steep hills.
Very hilly and very woody.
Yeah. And I'm sure if he was my first, I never would have allowed it. He's my third. But I trust him because he's learned how to inform. He has told me, Mom, I want to ride my bike. This is what I want to do. We've taught him how the safety, how to be safe. If I told him no continuously, manifestors are so headstrong. He's going to find a way to do it. He's just not going to tell me about it. And so what happens with a lot of parents and this kind of relates to manifesting generators too, a little bit. We don't like to be told what to do. And so if you're too controlling of your manifestor, they're going to try to find a way without you knowing. And so the best thing as a parent is to keep that communication going. Hey, buddy, I want to trust you. I want to keep you safe. please, before you go outside or
You
go
gotta
to your
tell me.
friend's house,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
you got to tell me. You got to tell me what you're up to. And then they start to learn that, because they think, because they want to be in charge all the time, they're used to people telling them no all the time. And if you become an adult who feels like people always tell you no, or you're not going to be able to do it your way, there's some healing that has to happen there.
And
so
I can only imagine, I'm thinking of all my kids, but I'm thinking of one in particular. And I have always loved being, I love being all their moms. If you guys listen to this, I love being everybody's mom. But also, he's really fun and funny. And always, it's like he knew how to do things. Like he kind of potty trained himself. He kind of taught himself to ride a bike. You know, that he was like, he tried to jump off the diving board before he knew how to swim. That he was always just like, I felt like there was like an old soul kind of quote unquote to him. Like you said, like, I'm just going to go and do these things. You don't need to worry about it, mother. I'm 4, you know? And so, but one of my other boys that kind of struggles with that inner confidence, or just knowing that he has said to me, if I had this particular brother's confidence, I'd be unstoppable. Because this other kid's like really, really, really book smart, but he puts the brakes on with everything. You know, that he's like, I'll just keep doing the same thing. I'll just keep doing the same thing. And these kids can be hard to educate, hard to parent. I've thought before, like,
it can make people go
coaches
crazy.
probably don't like him.
I'm a manifester. And mothering a manifester has been challenging for all of us. I am so grateful. I know this, but when I said like, oh, I wish I was Grayson, I realized once I got my own reading done, I'm like, oh my God, I am Grayson. But I spent so much of my younger years trying to adapt to what people wanted me to be. And now I'm stepping more into my power as a leader. I'm stepping more into my true self, but it's not, maybe we should have our husbands on our shows. What is it like to be married to manifestors? But it is fascinating to watch him, because what is that? The struggle is real, because they know, they just know. And so how do you give them that rope and still keep them safe? But yeah, so I know parents, there's some aha moments happening right now.
What's kind of fun
if you
to
are
think
parenting
about
a manifestor.
with me and Shannon just so far here is that you were the spark, that you're like, hey, you want to do a podcast? And I listen to my gut and I'm like, yeah, I had never one time thought about a podcast. Never once. But as soon as you said it, it felt like an easy yes. And there's a few other things in my life that I wouldn't have thought of on my own. But when it, kind of was presented to me, it was a hard no, hard yes, hard no, hard yes.
Perfect example of generator and manifesting generator energy, because when you're living in alignment with that, Ashley, and you know what that gut wisdom feels like, you're magnetic. You don't have to force your life to unfold and happen. You literally draw life to you, the right opportunities to respond to, the right people come your way. And again, why are we talking about this? Because we're all burned out. We're all tired. We think we are living in a culture that teaches us we have to carve our own path and force our life to happen. And really, for most of us, it's if we live in alignment with our natural energy, life comes our way. The path unfolds. We can walk forward feeling more clear and more energized, more healthier, because we're not carving our path or living our life based on our conditioning and our fear and our lack and our doubt.
And what sounds more depressing than that, or energy depleting than kind of living the life that somebody else thought we should, or
taught us to
or
be.
that I only see success as, I'm making this up, like a doctor or a lawyer. But I am a manifester, or I'm a manifesting generator, and I need to do all these things and think in a really different way. I always think my husband sits at a desk all day. I couldn't do it. I mean, emotionally and energetically, I wouldn't survive it. I mean, that sounds crazy and dramatic, but I wouldn't. And I know that. Thank God I don't. The manifester I love the uniqueness of it. It doesn't surprise me that you're a rare one, Shannon.
Well, thank you. I feel it has been so life
Yeah.
altering for me to actually discover it, because here's another thing. I used to think I wasn't good at things because I would start things and not complete them. And I learned my gift is to start
You're the
things.
starter.
My gift is to start things. And then I need the generators and the manifesting generators to help grow this, help continue this. So if you think about it in terms of a movie, I would be the producer. I would get I would be the one that kind of got the things going. And then the cast and crew are the manifesting generators and generators. They're going to get the one, continue making it happen. So let's move on to the director of that movie. The director of the movie would be the projectors. And projectors make up about 20% of the population. And they are also similar to manifestors in that they do not have consistent sacral energy. So that means most projectors, I work with a lot of projectors, and they have a sigh of relief when they hear me say, you are not designed to work a traditional 9 to 5, because they all know this about themselves. It's like they are so efficient at what they do. They literally are intuitive guides. They are really good at sitting back and watching. So if you think about it like a director of a movie, the director needs to sit back and watch everything. It needs to check the lighting and the way that the people are acting and how the lines were read. And they sit back and they observe life. So projectors have this natural tendency to kind of wait to be invited, wait for the right timing to share their wisdom. And because they don't have consistent energy, 2 to 3 hours a day is enough for them. And they need a lot of rest, a lot of downtime to recharge their energy. So like the manifestor, they should go to bed. I don't know if I said this about manifestors. Manifestors and projectors need to go to bed before they're tired, because what happens is they have this open sacral energy center. They draw in the energy from the people around them. And so they think they have more energy than they have, and they're really riding on borrowed energy. So whereas you have to burn your energy, I'm taking on your energy, and I'm thinking like, oh, I can go 10 more hours, this podcast all day. And then you leave, and then I go, oh my God, I was plugged into your energy. So you've got to go to bed before you're tired. Projectors have to go to bed before they're tired. And this goes for parenting. This helped change my parenting because I'm raising a projector and a manifester. And the manifester, especially, he will never say he's tired. Yeah. He's never going to say, and he'll act like a crazy person if he's overtired. So I have to say, he needs to go and lay down. He needs to read books. He needs to listen to a meditation. He needs literally like an hour to unwind, release that extra energy before he's even tired. And then he can go to sleep. And it changes bedtime. But for the projectors who are listening and you're in a full-time job, pay attention to your burnout. Women who hit about 40, 40s and 50s is when we start to go, oh my gosh, am I living out of alignment with my energy? Could this be one of the reasons why I am so tired all the time? Because I'm trying to keep up with generator energy. I'm trying to live in a generator world when really I am not designed to be that. And then the other thing that is interesting about projectors is a lot of times they feel unseen or not heard because they naturally wait to be invited to participate. And so if you have a projector who talks all the time, who kind of, talks to the point where it's almost irritating for people or annoying, you want to teach your projectors that if they can share their wisdom with the right people, they will naturally be invited to share. So I'll give an example. My Ashton is a projector. All of us are, well, we can talk about defined throats later because we all talk a lot. We all talk a lot in our household. He waits to share. And then we say, hey, Ash, what do you think about this? I've invited him to share, and believe me, he's going to have a lot of wisdom to share. He's like been waiting for that
chomping
moment.
At the bit.
But chomping at the bit, if I don't give him that space and that invitation, he will either not be heard, he'll stay quiet, or he'll do the opposite. He'll kind of like, look what I can do, look what I can do, look what I can do. And where you're like, oh my God, like, give us a break here.
Enough
right?
already. Yeah. How
So
great.
yeah. So that's the strategy for projectors, is simply to learn how to wait for the right timing to share your amazing wisdom that you're here to share.
Wow.
Reflectors are the last energy type. They're only 1% of us. So if you meet a reflector, give them a big hug. They are, if we're making a movie, they are the audience. They have all this open centers in their chart that they reflect back the community. They reflect back the wellness or the not wellness of their community. So reflectors are highly in tune people. They can see what's off before other people can see it. And they're very susceptible to their environment and the people that they're around. So it's very important, if you look up your kids' charts, family members, and you see you have a reflector in your life, if they're not feeling well, look at who they surround themselves with. Look at the environment in which they spend their days. It's really important for them to have like a happy place where they can plug into, whether it's in nature. I mean, we all need that, but reflectors especially are just highly susceptible to their environment. And so if they have friends that maybe aren't super supportive or bring them down, that can really affect the reflectors that you have in your life. So just making sure that they understand that about themselves and that their peer groups are supportive for them and that they know that. And then they're designed to wait before they make big decisions. Really, it's a lunar energy type. So they, talking about like the moon again, they would do really well learning the cycles of the moon, because really they are different energy types based on when it's a new moon, when it's a full moon. And if they learn that about themselves, they can wait a moon cycle before making big life decisions. Now, obviously, that's not always going to be easy to do. In our culture, sometimes we have to make decisions faster than waiting. Let me get back to you at the next full moon.
I need 7 days.
Waiting in general, waiting in general for them is just really important, because we get a lot of pressure in life to make decisions quickly. And for you, Ash, like when you're in tune with your gut, you can make decisions quickly. But for someone who is very susceptible to all the energy around them, they need a lot of waiting time. They need to talk it out to really get in tune with if it's the right thing for them or not.
I don't know. The last couple of years, I keep thinking about everybody's pace is different. And I keep thinking that, and I've never really thought about that until recently, that with my kids, but I think with COVID and having to be home, that was really hard for some people and really great for some people. Or online learning was really hard for some people and really easy and wonderful for some people. Some people just needed a break. And some moms, were like meant to just like be a homeschool mom, and other moms are like, no way, this wouldn't work. But pace for me has come up and come up and come up while you're talking. Like the reflector, their pace is different. There's a watch and hold on, and I'm going to watch you guys succeed or fail. And I want to be a nurse, but maybe I'm going to go watch movies about nurses, that I'm not going to just go to nursing school. That the timing is so different. And I think it's a hard time to raise kids, frankly, and a really exciting time, because we've got things like this to support us.
Yes.
If we don't use these things, there's so much information coming at us, and we think we need to parent like the mom with a cool Pinterest board or a really rad, I'm making this up, Instagram account or whatever, that we need to produce the same amount of, mother content as someone else, or that a clean house is really important to some people. And we sometimes can feel like, well, that's really not important. Do I really care?
Right.
But because it's been modeled to us and we've got so much information, that can feel so overwhelming. And what if we all honored our human design, but honored that my pace is different. And the things that just matter to me are different, and they're valid and relevant and equally important as the whoever's.
Totally. And when you were talking, it made me think about, in human design, we call it your inner authority. And I really think that we were raised. So the history of people is, we've been taught to always look outside of ourselves for the answers, to look outside of ourselves, to look to authority. And what human design is doing, and some of these other teaching and healing modalities, is really to teach us how to look to our inner authority, that you're the authority of your authentic self in your life. And how do we return to that? And one of the things, we won't get to it today, but maybe in a future episode, we can talk specifically about intuition, because that's like my jam. And when you really start to learn, now that you've known what your energy type is, you can start to see what your authority is, your intuition, how to really access it, because we're so inundated with this is the way to do it. No matter where you go, someone's going to tell you you shouldn't have those wrinkles, you shouldn't have that gray hair, you shouldn't have that, size jeans or whatever. We're constantly being told what we shouldn't have or shouldn't, what we lack. And learning how to discern between the messages we received and then return to our intuition. But what does my intuition say about my child, about this particular child, about what they need for school, bedtime, food, energy, whatever.
And
right?
to know, for me to know, like, my intuition is strong. It's strong because I've listened to it and learned from it. That it's a muscle that's been really flexed for me.
And I bet you've also not listened to it and then learned from
it. When I get kind of what feels like an intuition or a message, when I'm not listening to it, this is truth, and it sounds crazy, that it feels like my inner self is at a protest and it's holding signs like, don't do it, stop. It feels like my life is putting the brakes on. Now it's happened enough that I'm like, oh yeah, it was like everything inside of me said, don't do this. Everything inside of me said, don't do this. Why the heck did I do it? Now I have a pause button, when there's a hard yes or a hard no, I know to do it or don't. And when I'm not sure, then I need a little time, then I need to kind of learn more. Some moms, women, men, kids, we need nature to, connect with our intuition so we can be present for these things that are coming up for our babies. Do we need yoga? Do we need meditation? Do we need to do yoga and meditation in nature? What is it? Do I need just more rest? For me, I'm not a great sleeper. I can look back on my life. I never really was. I always stayed up really late. I always kind of got up early. So sleep isn't necessarily where I gather my intuition, but breaks during the day, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But to know, like, I'm feeling out of touch with that inner guide. And I think that would be a really big gift, and would have been for me, 18 years ago. Like, are you able to see what's going on with your kid? My husband is really great. Teenagers, man, oh man, was a really big challenge for both of us. And pulling away and whatever. But a bunch of times my husband would pull me into our bedroom and be like, do we really care about this? And I appreciate that so much, because I care about everything. And he would give me like, do we really care? Let's say that they haven't done their laundry, or that they're late all the time, whatever it is, that, Owen never made it to school on time, never one day in his life. Do we really care about this? Society does, or whatever.
Right.
And so we started giving him, like, in high school, like really, really easy classes in the morning, like that he'd start his day with a class that, like, the teacher didn't really care if he came, a marketing class or gym class. So we're honoring him as a really unique individual. And I love that. Do I really care about this thing? So
I
I'm
love
not
that.
trying
That's
to be
actually
like,
a really good question. Exactly. Because I think that so often we just fall in that trap of judging ourselves without even realizing it, or feeling judged by others because of our choices that, and so when I think about it, what you just said, like, do I really care about this, is a really good question when you are feeling conflict about anything, but especially as it relates to parenting, because I think especially when you're in that younger age group too, I mean, there are so many things that happen.
Yeah, not every kid's supposed to be on the soccer team and doing Boy Scouts and doing art club. That's not for everyone. And I do think it's really hard as our kids get older to be like, what? My neighbor's kid's in 7 activities. I don't have my kid in anything. That maybe what you're doing is being the best mom for that kid's unique needs. And I would try to honor that.
Absolutely. So I encourage everyone who's listening, if you have questions, you can shoot us an email. You can find our website is mindfulmamamovementpodcast.com. You'll see our email there, and let us know what your energy types are. I'd like to know, what have you taken away from this conversation, and what are you learning about your own kids, and what questions do you have for any future shows? Also, I just want to wrap it up because you talked about puzzle, and I thought it was funny that one of the ways that I think about human design, and I think of the changes we've gone through, even since COVID, where we felt like we were taught how to fit in, how to be like everyone else. And I think we're really realizing that we're all individuals, we're all unique parts of that puzzle. We all have something to contribute. And how boring would it be if we were all the same anyways? So really to honor our uniqueness, honor our differences, that we're all unique. Us as mothers, our children, parts of the puzzle, and it's not going to look like everyone else, and it shouldn't. It doesn't have to.
No, your puzzle's your own. I always say that, like, I feel like our family kind of looks like a CSI. That there's like, oh, this makes sense, and so you draw a line to this person. These guys do well when they're playing basketball, but these guys don't do well when they're watching a movie, or having 4 kids and all boys. I think it's sometimes, I mean, you have 1 kid, whatever, that we all come in with a preconceived notion, and that there is just a family experience that we feel good about who we are and how we move through the world, or we don't. And what is so beautiful for me about learning and understanding this is I was just born this way. And my kid was just born this way. And what if we'd all just been honored from kind of that birth moment, that spark of being earth side, that, like, oh, how interesting, how cool, how great that she's this way. What if our parents, our teachers, our coaches, our thought leaders all honored that beautiful uniqueness that this is sharing with us? It's just such great information.
I love that. And I think anyone listening is probably like feeling that too. It's like, that's what human design has brought to my life, is like, wow, this system sees me. This system, I feel seen and heard, and for being my authentic self and my unique part of the puzzle. And it's really, it's a beautiful gift for ourselves as we continue to evolve. And what a beautiful gift to give our children too.
I think it's such a beautiful gift. And our moms, or our family of origin often didn't have this information. Their pressures were so different than ours. Our pressures are different than theirs. My mom's always like, man, oh man, you moms today are really, like carrying a heavy load. And to honor that we're carrying a heavy load, and to honor the way that you carry it and the way it affects you, and what a relief this feels like.
That's really beautiful.
Well, everything you said was beautiful.
Well, I've had so much fun. Yes. Well, thank you for letting me share. And for those of you listening, if you take the time to go to iTunes and leave the Mindful Mama podcast a review and rate our show, just shoot us a DM or an email and let us know that you did that. And I'm going to enter you into a drawing for a mini human design reading. And we just thank you for doing that, because that really helps our podcast grow and it helps us reach more moms.
So my husband shared with me that he listens to Mindful Mama Movement podcast through Spotify. Does it matter where they do it? Does it need to be iTunes?
iTunes is what directs more traffic to the podcast. So I don't know how Spotify reviews work, but if you guys are on Spotify solely and you're like, hey, I'll leave you a review on Spotify,
anywhere that you listen to us,
I'm all
review
for that.
us, give us a 5-star or whatever they give you.
And really just share the show with your friends. We want more and more people to hear and keep in contact with us, and we'll enter you for drawings in future shows too. So thanks so much for listening. And thank you, Ashley. This has been really fun talking all about human design today.
Yep. You're amazing.
I love you. You're amazing too.
We love all of you too. Thanks so much for listening today. To learn more about human design and Shannon's coaching, you can go to afreespiritlife.com. And to learn more about Ashley and her services, visit homeholistic.com. We will see you in the next episode.